Plaintiffs Bryce McIntyre and his wife Vicky say the defendants are their neighbors and they are hoarders who don't take care of their home. They're suing because they claim the defendants' two pit bulls attacked and killed their dog. Defendants Kelly Julian and Melissa Johnson admit that on the day the plaintiff's dog died, their dogs got out of the house. However, Kelly claims when they came back, there were no signs they had been involved in an attack. So they deny responsibility. They're countersuing for emotional distress.
Start with you all.
Your Honor, as a young kid, I watched as a...
No, you didn't watch me as no young kid. That's a lie. Yeah. Starting out with a lie.
That was years ago. That was when they had rocks.
As a young kid.
We drove rocks for cars.
Oh, you talking about what you did as a young kid. All right, okay.
As a young kid growing up, I watched
me as a young kid. Go ahead.
As a young kid growing up, I watched the neighborhood behind me develop. It was a neighborhood I dreamed of one day living in. That was a extraordinary neighborhood where people took care of their property.
What part of what city? In
Connersville, Indiana.
Okay.
But people really took pride in their property, and I dreamed
Probably
of one day.
Owners.
I dreamed of
renters don't.
I dreamed of one day living in that neighborhood. I was fortunate enough in 1988, me and my wife Vicky, to purchase a piece of property in that neighborhood, and I raised my girls there, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, and the Melissa and Kelly's folks.
Neighbors? How long have they been your neighbors?
Their family was our neighbors for years. They were school teachers.
Okay.
And they really kept the property up. They took care of the property. Once they passed away.
There goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood. The property deteriorated. They've got boarded up windows.
Brought everybody's property value down.
Drops. There you go, sir. They had junk cars laying around the yard. And they had stuff in the yard. They mowed the yard when they felt like it. And that really hurts the neighborhood. And I mean, go ahead if you got something.
Boarded up windows and things like that.
Excuse me, can I say
Let
something?
them finish. Go ahead, ma'am. What else?
Boarded up windows that were broke. They put plywood over them.
How long were they boarded up?
Oh,
They still are, sir.
they still are.
Because if it's 5 days later, it might take to get it fixed. So if you're talking a week, but if you're talking months.
Years.
Yeah, let me hear from you, ma'am. You said you wanted to say something.
Those windows are gone. That wall was tore out. That wall where the windows were, it's just a solid wall now. There are no windows.
All right.
Defendants Kelly Julian and Melissa Johnson are being sued by their neighbors, who claim Kelly and Melissa's pit bulls attacked and killed their dog.
You all want to give me any other background about being neighbors?
Yes, I do. We've lived in, it's a 3-generation home. My parents lived there till they died. We've been in the family for 55 years. And yes, my in-laws took very good care of the house, but when my father-in-law got sick 10 years ago, my husband and I moved in to help take care of him. And my husband got on disability 6 years ago. And he only had 10% of his heart, and he couldn't do anything. We had another home, which my daughter was living in, and they were coming back and forth between their jobs and my other home trying to get our grass mowed because my husband couldn't mow the grass. He couldn't clean our pool. He couldn't do any of that. So we asked our daughter to move in 5 years after that, to help us maintain the house and take care of it and that. And I told them when they did that at the time that they needed to do a privacy fence, and we have a privacy fence now.
Okay.
So.
Sounds like, however, that they're making some valid points based on what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And that is because your husband's heart, you couldn't keep the house up. And not keeping the house up is just like they said.
Okay, but
Brings the property down.
yes, it does bring, well, yes, we're working on getting it fixed up and
Okay.
changing things. But
You
that
are.
doesn't have anything to
But
do
there's
with
no
the
boarded
case.
windows.
Well, they're giving me background.
Okay, all right.
Because even you said something about the fence.
Yeah.
So the upkeep has everything to do
Oh,
with
yeah,
this.
it-
You said
yeah,
it
I'm
has
sorry.
nothing to do with it. It has
Oh,
everything.
yes, you're right.
Because I just heard your defense is about a fence. And so a fence has to do with keeping the property up. So it has everything to do the way you kept the property up. Let me hear from you all about the incident.
About the dogs?
Yes.
The dog incident, okay. On page 2, down in
Tell
the...
me first what happened, if you can, or if your wife would like to.
You want to give your statement?
Okay,
You can.
I'm
I
being-
believe they got you
first of
scared,
all,
sir. Y'all ain't jumped on him, have you?
No, they ain't gonna be scared.
Why he so
I don't
shook?
even, I don't speak to
Why
them.
he so shook about talking? Go ahead, ma'am. You're not scared of him, Mike.
no.
All right, your husband's scared. He about to.
No, I ain't scared. I'll
Well,
speak.
I lost my mom about 1.5 years ago, and I've had a really hard time with it. And this dog, she slept with me. She sat with me in the lounge chair. She helped support me, through that. And I just loved Lily. She was just such a good dog. Well, April 5th, 2022, I had a doctor's appointment at Liberty. And I left there I got home a little after 12. And I went out the back door to check on Lily. And I seen their two pit bulls. And one went after, growled and lunged at me, and I went right back in the house. But I could see the pen was knocked over. Well, it was knocked over enough where they could get to her. And then I seen Lily laying in the grass. Well, I called my husband and I told him, I said, I think she's dead, but I'm not for sure. And he said, well, I'll call the police and I'm on my way home. And I went ahead and walked out there, and it was awful. Her neck was broke, her leg was torn out. There was blood everywhere, which you could see on.
I believe you, ma'am. I don't want to look at your dog.
Okay.
In that shape. Do you have a nice picture of the dog?
Yes,
What
sir.
page is
Yeah.
On page 5,
Yeah. Oh, what a pretty dog. Yes.
Defendants Kelly Julian and Melissa Johnson are being sued by their neighbors, who claim Kelly and Melissa's pit bulls attacked and killed their dog.
So what happened after that? You all called the police or animal control? Tell me what happened.
I called the police on my way home. The police arrived, they looked at it, and they called animal control. Animal control to come, and he looked at it, and he gave his opinion of this and that. Then he proceeded to go to the Kelly and Melissa's house and talk to them. Well, after he was done talking to them, he come back around at probably 45 minutes to an hour, and he said he was going to put the dogs down within an hour. Then he says, once a pit bull attacks like that, their personality, usually they will do it again, is what he told me.
They consider vicious animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lady, she's not here today, that was some of their relations. She come over and knocked on the door, and she said, I'm sorry, the dogs, I opened the door and the dogs got out.
Ran out.
She never proceeded to go after the dogs or nothing.
Right.
And then she went on and left. Then it was probably half hour later, them Kelly and Melissa shows up, and they come to the house, and Kelly starts hollering, you didn't see it, you didn't see it, you didn't see it, right? Well, my wife didn't see it, actually. But in the time frame, I had a barbershop appointment at 12 o'clock. I left the house about 10 till 12, so there was about a 20-minute gap between her getting home. So in between that 20 minutes, that dog was killed, didn't it?
Yeah, her
Let me ask
stomach
you,
was
I heard you
still
say
warm.
her response was in your face about you didn't see it. You didn't see it. Did she express any concern about the death of your dog?
No, she showed no
they
mercy
showed
whatsoever.
no remorse.
I mean, that's what really upset me, because they showed no remorse about our pet being
Yeah, you
killed.
see, I jumped right on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really,
that dawned on me as you were speaking, and you said what she said, but I'll listen to you, ma'am.
When my husband became disabled 6 years ago, in our house, we moved in to help take care of my in-laws, and she passed away that June, and my husband found out he was disabled in November. At that time, we got into some trouble, and we got behind on our house taxes, and it was in a sheriff's sale. And we found out later on that Mr. McIntyre put stuff on Facebook and showed my daughter.
Ma'am, tell me what happened with this.
Okay, all right. I let my dogs out to the backyard, and I came to let them in, and I realized I have two doors to my house. One goes to the yard and one goes to the pool. I was out earlier messing by the pool, and I guess I didn't close the door properly, and when I come back, the door was open. So I automatically run through my house, and I holler for the dogs. And they came back, and then probably there was no blood or nothing on them. They came back, and it was probably about 40 minutes, about 2 o'clock, I think. The police officer and the general animal shelter came to my home and told me that they needed to retrieve my 2 pit bulls.
Do you know whether your dogs crossed over into their property?
I don't know if they did or not. I did not see it. I
All
did
right,
not
go
see
ahead.
it. And
They told you? Police.
the police told me that, and I said that can't be possible because I said there was no blood on them. They told me that the dog was shredded, and that the kennel was tipped over. And I said, well, that can't be. When I called them in, there was no blood or nothing on them, no cuts or any sign of an altercation. And they said, we were sorry, ma'am, that we had to take the dogs. And that if they took it to the McIntyres and they verified that they were the dogs, they were going to put him down within 3 hours.
Defendants Kelly Julian and Melissa Johnson are being sued by their neighbors, who claim Kelly and Melissa's pit bulls attacked and killed their dog.
All right, go ahead.
So at that time, I called my daughter home. I called my son-in-law. I said, I don't know what's going on. Could you go to the animal shelter? My daughter came home. We found out during that time where the address was. So I went over to their house. I said, can you please tell me what is going on? I said, they said my dog shredded your dog. And she said, no. She said, come on in. Let me show you what happened. Vicky did. So we went. She said it was here. She walked us through her house. We walked through, all 3 of us, and she said, this is where it happened, and this is the kennel, and it's kind of caved in. And I said, I was sorry for your loss. I hate to hear that. I'm a pet owner myself. I gave her a hug. I said, I'm sorry if my dog did this. I said, but I don't think it did. And I thought that was the end of it.
At what point did someone observe and say anything about your dogs
Okay.
not having blood?
If you look on page 2, the police report, down toward the bottom, it says it should be noted that a neighbor walked up to myself and Sergeant Shook advised us the dogs did not have any blood on them anywhere when she saw the dogs. When I spoke to Dave, he also advised when he secured the dogs that they did not have any blood on them either.
And who is Dave?
He is the animal shelter person for the Fayette County Animal Shelter.
And this is on June 13th?
No, April
But it says
5th.
on April 5th, but
Yes.
the report is given on June 13th.
Yes.
Nothing from a date closer to when it occurred?
Just the
This is 2
police.
months later.
I just picked this police report up. I didn't think I needed one. I was never charged. They kept my dogs for the 10
10
days,
we thought we
told
were-
me I could come and get them because there was no proof that my dogs killed that dog, and I was able to bring my dogs home.
From the time the incident occurred until the police came, do you know how long it was?
They come at 12:34, and my wife got home a little after 12.
You were there, or you had just come home?
When I got home, it had already happened from the doctor.
Okay, so they could have sprayed off the blood, right?
Yeah, they
All
could have.
right. So, you don't know when it occurred, but what you do know is the police came at 12:34.
Yes.
So they could have sprayed the dogs down
Yes,
of
Your Honor.
any blood or evidence
Your
of it. So that doesn't prove that just because the dogs didn't have blood on it at that point, that your dogs didn't do it. Your dogs are vicious animals, and what you're telling me is just coincidentally, those vicious animals that you let out of the door mistakenly, coincidentally, around that same time frame, within hours, their dog is killed. I believe your dogs did it. They're vicious
think-
animals.
Pip,
You, by
it's
your
just how
own
they
admission,
read.
you can talk over me all you want. Once again, you had time to spray the dogs down after it happened, after you observed your dogs, your vicious pit bulls, come back bloodied and her dog dead. You had plenty of time to say, whoa, let's wash these dogs down and deny it. We wouldn't
Judge.
dare admit what?
I'm sorry. Our dog, I mean, we've got the proof
What are you sorry about?
that you, I messed up and you don't.
I know you're not sorry about killing that dog.
No,
They've
yes,
already
I
told me
am.
that. Judgment
No.
for the plaintiff, your claim dismissed. I believe it. I believe your dogs did it. I'm sorry. This is my decision. I'm sorry that your dogs have been found responsible by me. Bye-bye. That's my
Thank you, Your
decision.
Honor.
Thank you.
Sorry to hear that you all lost your dog.
Next time it could be a kid or next time it could be one of my grandkids or something. And we have looked at moving out of the neighborhood because of the way they let their house run down. It's just trash. It's an eyesore to our community. It's absolutely a shame what they did to something that was left to them, that they have destroyed a piece of property that is in a nice neighborhood that many people would like to live in. And it's a shame.